MOZA Racing now have a good number of racing wheels, from the Xbox compatible R3 to the crazy good R12 and the really powerful R21. In this video, I'm going to show you my recommended wheel settings for all of these MOZA racing wheels for Forza Motorsport. With so many different MOZA wheels around, recommending the perfect settings for all wheels is a tricky task. In this video, I'm focusing mainly on the R12, as that's my pick of the bunch and my favourite MOZA wheel, and it kind of sits in a middle ground between the lower powered R3 and the really high powered R21. I will talk about what settings to change for lower powered wheels as I go, and the idea is to give you a good set of preset settings which you can kind of adjust up and down to suit which MOZA wheel you're running. Now the assists that you use are really your own personal preference, but I would recommend disabling as many as you can for a more true to life experience. There is one setting that you do need to change though if you're using a racing wheel, and that's the steering setting. Ensure you set this to simulation to get a much more realistic racing wheel experience. Now, Forza states on its website that not all MOZA wheels are compatible. The R3, for example, isn't listed as a compatible wheel at all, and only the R9 is. However, I can confirm that every MOZA wheel I tested on PC does work. My R12, which I'm using now, works like a charm, as did the R3 and the R16, which I also tested. You'll need to manually set up all button configurations in-game when you first connect your wheel, and that's really it to get your MOZA wheel working. To do this, head over to the input settings, and in here you'll need to scroll up and down to each input, such as the throttle, the acceleration, the brake. Select it and then press the input on your wheel and pedals. Once this is done, head over to the advanced input settings where we can tune the force feedback in much more detail. Now, it's pretty safe to say that the default settings for your wheel really aren't good. They make the wheel feel awkward and very weird due to kind of mid-corner force feedback loss. So let's jump into the advanced settings and fix this. As with all of my recommended Forza settings so far, like the ones I did for the Logitech and Fanatec previously, set the dead zones to 0 on the inside and 100 on the outside. This should pretty much be a default setting that you change in almost every racing game. Moving on, the vibration scale should be set to 50, and I've gone with 80 on the force feedback scale. Remember, this is for the MOZA R12. If you're using an R3 or R5, change the force feedback up to around or just over 100%, if not a little more. If you're using one of the more powerful MOZA wheels such as the R16 or R21, you may have to either turn this setting down a touch or the force feedback strength in Pit House down a little bit. For the rest of the settings here, you can pretty much leave them the same no matter which MOZA wheel you're using, other than the damper, which I'll touch on in a second. Now I've gone with 70 on the steering self-alignment, 150 and then 30 on both of the trail scale settings. These are really important and affect the sensation of grip loss mid-corner. Try not to adjust these too much away from what I've got here. Increasing the pneumatic trail scale in particular will almost certainly ruin the force feedback and makes your wheel go incredibly light. For the road feel scale, I've gone with 90, which is the force feedback from the track's surface. And then I've gone with 30, 40, and 30 and 40 on the low sensitivity, damping, center spring strength, and dynamic damper. These can all be set quite low on direct drive wheels, and this set of settings works really well for the R12 during testing. Now you may want to increase the wheel damper setting if you've got the R3 or R5, as this will add a bit of extra weight to the wheel. Then finally, leave your sensitivity and linearity at 50. This will give you perfect linear steering, so don't touch these two settings. Now, MOZA has probably the most in-depth range of settings available within its Pit House software than any other wheel brand offers. You can change so much in Pit House to the point where things can become overwhelming. On screen are my recommended settings for Pit House, but I haven't delved into the advanced settings in this video. Feel free to pause the video now to copy these settings over into MOZA Pit House. And overall, using these settings and the settings in-game which I just recommended really helped to get a much more detailed and realistic feeling from my MOZA racing wheels. Let me know in the comments below how you find these settings and what settings you're running. If you have found this video helpful in any way, hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content similar to this. But for now guys, I will see you on track.